And, of course, your tuition in the ANU spiritual training will be scholarship at that point. So, for free tuition and one-on-one classes, so forth and so on, definitely reach out. But don't just do it for that. Because if your heart's not in it, you're going to find that having to work with people or help guide them or even be a liaison can be very difficult work. Okay, you're dealing with people who have issues and hurting, and it can be challenges there, but you grow leaps and bounds again when you provide unconditional service to the people or to the people. The definitive article of identity. So the people we mean God people. It goes to say God the people, God people, the God people. All right. So I just want to share that. Now we got thunder rituals. Okay. And thunder rituals again. This is just some simple things that you can do to work with the energy of thunder and lightning, and to get some things done. Thunder and lightning appear for a reason, and it's not just to frighten us as children or as an adult for some people, or just to light up the sky. Everything that comes down from the heavens comes down as a seed. Everything is a seed. The rain is a seed. The sun ray is a seed. The thunder is a seed. Everything that comes from the heavens is a seed, and it's supposed to be utilized. And we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with more on thunder rituals.
For all those in the Southern California area, please check out our Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Assaan-ANU at Mystic Journey Bookstore on Friday, December 13th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. He will be hosting a workshop on self-actualization with the cosmic forces of West Africa. In this workshop, you will learn how to self-actualize through the universal energies that govern the laws and character of the cosmos. This workshop is a continuation of the Unleashing of Cosmic Forces of West Africa series that is currently being enjoyed by thousands of listeners on Chief Yuya's popular Blog Talk Radio show, Enlightenment and Transformation. The workshop is Friday, December 13th from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Mystic Journey Bookstore, which is located at 1624 Abbott Kinney Boulevard in Venice, California.
Has been noted as the voice of God. So when Oya and Shango join is when we finally get to hear the words of God in the form of thunder. Okay? So something to pay close attention to. Now we also know that Poseidon was also known as one who wielded thunder as well. He was also known as the earth shaker. So he was assimilated with thunder. Poseidon, for those who are dealing with the Yoruba, would be Olokun, okay, the earth shaker. Now, very important to also note, and sometimes this gets a little confused, you have Zeus who also wielded the firebolts, right? But what's important when we look at the word Zeus, we have Z in the beginning. And the Z that has been incorporated in the name of Zeus, because why not just make it something like Jesus? It's so close to Jesus. Why put the Z there? Because the Z actually symbolizes the zigzag shape of thunder and lightning, or lightning as it comes down. That's what the Z is, okay? Now, very similar to the zigzag shape of the SS that the Nazis wore, okay? The sleeve patch represented the fall of the dragon from heaven. So when you see that Z, or you see that crisscross or that zigzag shape, it doesn't always represent Satanism. Many people think it does, like in the rock group Kiss, you see the SS, and some people said that the name Kiss meant Knights in the Service of Satan. Okay, but the SS is not just the symbolic of the dragon falling from heaven, right? Now, of course, we know the dragon falling from heaven. We're still associating it with lightning. That represents the Kundalini falling. The Kundalini, a dragon is what? A serpent. So when the serpent falls down to earth, okay, that's the Kundalini that was once raised, now falling down to the root chakra, okay? So your job, obviously, is to raise your Kundalini back up. So does that mean that you can throw lightning back up to the heavens? Of course, you certainly can. There are certain minerals, such as amber. Amber, you want to keep some amber, that is known to hold a static discharge, okay? So you keep some amber in your hand, and you're going to find that you may be shocking people or touching the light switch and you get shocked and things like that, because amber has that. Also, there's a mineral, well, I don't want to call it a mineral, but a phenomenon known as fulgurite. And fulgurite is the substance that's made when lightning strikes sand. Because as many of you know, in order to create glass, sand is heated up at high temperatures. And when that sand melts, this is how glass is formed, or glass is created. Well, the same thing happens when that sand is struck by lightning. It forms these pieces, and these pieces are oftentimes used in ritual work. The actual pieces of fulgurite, because it's said to have harnessed always a vulture or a bird that was worn on the crown, and this was an honoring and a signification of the Iyami, understanding that the witches were very much a part of our spiritual practices. So again, now when you take it to the understanding of lightning, there is no thunder without the witch. Well, who's the witch? Oya, meaning she tore, or she tears it, is what Oya means. So that understanding of lightning and how we traditionally have worked with lightning, whether it be through our mojo bags, and one of the things that was often done is that we would take like cedar oil or certain wood oils, and we would mix it with other ingredients like a bird's feather, and we would hold that up inside of our mojo bag when lightning and thunder was coming down, so that it could soak up the energy of that lightning and thunder. Some people, they would use what's called lightning rods, and they would stick the lightning rods in a very high place. And in those lightning rods, they would sit them in sand. And when the lightning rod would be struck by the lightning, the sand would form into a glass because of the intense heat that would happen right in that moment. And those pieces of glass would be used as spiritual tools. They would either be put into the mojo bags, or they would be carried, or they would be put around the house and the property to keep not only storms from coming, but it would also keep people from trying to destroy and rip down what has been built. Because this is what lightning does. When one is sending lightning and thunder to someone, it is to destroy and tear down what has been built. For those of you who follow the angelic energies, you know that Saint Barbara, who's often consecrated or syncretized, I should say, with Shango, is also a archetype of thunder, very similar to our Christian Elijah, who is said to ride on a chariot of thunders. Ride on a chariot of thunder. Okay, that is Elijah. Remember, we have that Eli, or El. Whenever you see the L or the Eli, we're talking about divinity or God. And then you see the Jah, or Jah, which means God the Father. God the Father, similar to what the interpretation of Zeus is, or Jupiter, or Odin. They ride on chariots of thunder. So it was always noted that whenever thunder hit the ground, or whenever thunder came, God was present. Okay, and we see this even in the Bible, in Exodus, that you can do, or in the Old Testament. That ingredients that I just gave to you, you can make yourself your own lightning bag, and that's not only used to protect you from lightning, but more importantly, that's more so used to conjure lightning. Okay, to conjure lightning, because sometimes you need to tear down something that has been built, whether it's been built against you or whether it's been built against someone who you care about. You would use the lightning for that. One very simple ritual that you can always do is, again, using that zigzag zig shape. I was speaking on Yusuf L's show this morning, and one of the terms that I had used was zigzag zig, which is a term that we hear a lot of time in 120, or the Nation of Gods and Earths. And zigzag zig means knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Well, if we have an understanding of knowledge, wisdom, understanding as it pertains to zigzag zig, you know that knowledge, wisdom, understanding connotes itself and represents itself as a divine original family. Knowledge being the father, wisdom being the mother, and understanding being the child. So lightning within itself represents that full embodiment of creation as well. That's why, again, when it's always said that lightning comes down, this is when God is shown, or God comes down. Okay, even again, going back to the movie The Matrix, when you look at The Matrix, there's a scene when he's dealing with the architect, and you see he's going through a thunderstorm. It's like a constant thunderstorm, because again, that storm or that thunderstorm symbolizes creativity, or what we'll say the creative intercourse that occurs between the elements. When you have a thunderstorm, oftentimes you have rain, you have wind present, you have thunder striking the earth, and of course the lightning itself is the fire. So in all of those different things, you have the interaction or the intercourse between the various elements, and through the intercourse of the various elements, what arises now is what we consider to be creation. And these concepts were never taken away from these different archetypes that came forth, whether it be the Christ and the image of the fall of Lucifer, or the serpent and the zigzag flying through the air. And this is all creation is. When lightning hits the ground, what basically happens is that God, or the electromagnetic creative potential of God, is hitting the ground and being grounded out by soil. It's being dispersed and grounded out by soil. So what happens to you? What happened to you when you were trapped inside of your physical body? Well, what happened was a God was trapped inside of a physical body, and the energy and the power of that God was grounded out by the darkness of the earth flesh. Okay, what some people call burning, but celebrate that zigzag zig, or that falling down, also represents the acquisition of truth and knowledge. So you always will deal with lightning and you will deal with thunder in order to acquire knowledge or to acquire truth. One of the number sets that signifies lightning is the number 11. Okay, number 11 was kind of interesting, because when we talk about the destroyer of materialism, remember you had in the Bible, you had the apostle Judas, and Judas was the one that betrayed Christ, and then he went into a field and it said that he hung himself, and there's different stories on that one. He betrayed him for 10 pieces of silver. Okay, 10 pieces of silver. So because of that, after the betrayal, it was said that there was really only 11 apostles. Okay, and that 11 represented that fall of man, or that fall of Judas. Okay, but we also know that the number 11 is a number of gateways. It represents the gateway, and it represents the twin towers. Okay, but in a biblical sense, or in that mythology, 11 represents when one falls from grace, because 12 is that perfect number of the apostles. But then when you come down to 11, it's a reminder that Judas was the one who fell from grace. So what does falling from grace mean? It means coming from the fifth dimension to the third dimension, okay, or falling from heaven to earth. And that is symbolized by the number 11. But also know that whatever can fall can go back up. So 11 is not just a gateway from your fall from your higher self, but 11 is a gateway for your acquisition, or your returning to your higher self. Okay? So there's a lot of sciences, again, when we're dealing with lightning, and we're going to cover a lot of it in this month. We're going to just keep hitting lightning and thunder, but I wanted to kind of give a preface to how we could start. So one simple thing that people can do is they can get those minerals, the lodestone, the amber, or you can even make your own fulgurite. I'm sure if you go and do a search on how to make fulgurite, it will give you some hints and tips. And that's always the most powerful stuff that you could do, is the things that you make and you create yourself. But in making that fulgurite, you actually now have harnessed the power and the energy of lightning. Once you do that, you can do spiritual work with it straight off, straight away. So I would advise everyone to give that a shot as well, But you can use, again, like I said, a base oil, and you put it in a bag. Get a piece of wood that's been struck by lightning, and what you can do is even sand that down so that it's a powder, and you can feed that to your Shango. Okay, you can feed that to a double-headed axe. You can feed that to the symbol of a phallus if you're having trouble creating, or do you have any issues of sterility, or even if you're an artist and you're trying to create things and you're having some challenges there, you can use that lightning energy, because nothing is more powerful really on the planet than lightning. It's one of the most powerful things. MENT
hyphen AND hyphen TRANSFORMATION. Also, please be sure to sign up for the ANU newsletter, which can be found by going to anunation.org. That is ANUNATION.org. If you'd like to become a sponsor or an on-air guest on this or any of our other broadcasts, please be sure to contact us at questions@anunation.org. That is the word questions@anunation.org. Thank you for your continued support, and be well. We've only just You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation, as brought to you by the Foundational Friday. Our core aim is to present an experience, an opportunity for your soul to reascend to its place of origin by cultivating a healthier spiritual awareness and emotional maturity. This show serves as a free offering to the greater community and an addendum requirement for all ANU spiritual training students. For all those listening, if you'd like to move closer to the calculations and fundamental understandings of the ANU order, be sure to pick up the book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. If you desire a spiritual reading to help you map your current spiritual position in the face of your world and learn the greatest pathways for your fortune in this season, you can go to the saduluhouse.com. That is saduluhouse.com. You can also go to orishareligion.com to find out how you can become a student and member of the new spiritual order. That's orishareligion.com. Let us begin.
Greetings, everyone. Here we are again, another Foundational Friday. I am your host, Yuya Assaan-ANU, head instructor of the One of the reasons that we came back because, one, there were a lot of his listeners who were still very interested in me presenting more information. But one of the things that we did say is that we have to try to give some more answers for all the people who had called in, and you could hear it in their voice. And I think it's just important, for us to note, those of us who are learning these sciences, who is learning this information, to kind of make a note, maybe even if it's to self, as to what exactly you're learning it for. Are you learning it for yourself, or are you sensitive to the fact that people are really in some really horrible positions at this time on the planet? And perhaps maybe something you're learning may be able to loosen or release them from the yoke of their own spiritual, mental, and maybe sometimes even physical oppression. All right, so that's just something, I would say to know. But in any event, you want to check out those two shows, and they're long shows. The first show, we went 3 hours, and we actually ran out. People were still calling in and listening, and it cut off. So this show, it runs 3 hours as well. So you have a full 6 hours of just straight information. And, I think it will profit you greatly. Something that you could probably listen to with your notepad or just play through the night. Maybe you'll pick up little things as you're sleeping. So, you want to check out that show with Yusuf Al. It's a pretty good show. And as many of you know, Anu Asafo, last Sunday we had Dr. U, which was a good show. I think it was last Sunday. We also had Dr. Africa come. So, we got a nice dosage of our medical arts. And I sandwiched those shows in with presentation of Osayin Part 2 that I did last Friday. And many people had reached out to me, and they were very appreciative of that show, the Osayin show, where we dealt with the science of agricultural alchemy or vegetation transmutation. So I would urge you all to check that one out as well. This Sunday on Anu Asafo, because I always have to, the Anu Asafo is run by my students, so my energy is always going to promote and strengthen what they're doing. But this Sunday on Anu Asafo, we'll have as a guest Akoda Awo. Okay, and Akoda Awo, if anybody knows the name Akoda or even Asheda, these are the first two students of Orunmila. Okay, so he and I had a wonderful conversation last night. We spoke, at length about different things, about spirituality and working with people and having godchildren and Nigeria and initiations and global spirituality, Ifa, Kemetic tradition, so forth. We went through the gambit, and just some of the issues that face us as men, not only just as Awo, as spiritual men, but just as men in general.
In this
some of the
workshop,
things that
you will
we
learn
have
how
to get
to
through.
self-actualize through the universal energies that govern the laws and character of the cosmos. This workshop is a continuation of the Unleashing of Cosmic Forces of West Africa series that is currently being enjoyed by thousands of listeners on Chief Yuya's popular blog talk radio show, Enlightenment and Transformation. The workshop is Friday, December 13th from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Mystic Journey Bookstore, which is located at 1624 Abbott Kinney Boulevard in Venice, California. The cost of this event is $20 at the door. Be prepared to change your life through aligning your spiritual faculties with their corresponding cosmic archetypes. Meet Chief Jagna Haru Yuya Assaan-ANU at Mystic Journey Bookstore on Friday, December 13th from 7 to 9 Pacific Standard Time, located at 1624 Abbott Kinney Boulevard in Venice, California, for the workshop titled Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa. See you there, and be well.
So in connection with that thought, as thunder, as a seed of something or a seed energy, I think it's very important and interesting to note that oftentimes thunder rituals were done in ancient times in order to destroy crops or to destroy something that someone had cultivated or built up, because lightning could come down into a field, the field could catch fire, and your entire crops are destroyed. So there is a historical reference point and historical affiliation that we have with thunder. And I mean, that's pretty obvious even if you read things like the Bible, or you look at our archetype of Shango or Zeus or Jupiter. These were all energies that worked with that lightning and thunder. They threw thunderbolts. They threw lightning bolts. Okay? And, of course, when we're looking at thunder, it associates itself with the fire energy or the fire nation, right? So rituals and movements that you may do to invoke fire or to bring fire to you would also work for thunder energy. But more importantly, of course, when we have thunder, we have what's called lightning and thunder. So what is the difference, right? Well, thunder, we know, is a sound. It's that loud clap that you hear when the lightning comes down. But why is there a sound from the lightning? Because there's a wave of wind, of air back up. That travels. So does that mean that you can throw lightning back up to the heavens? Of course, you certainly can. There are certain minerals, such as amber. You want to keep some amber, that is known to hold a static discharge. Okay? So you keep some amber in your hand, and you're going to find that you may be shocking people or touching the light switch and you get shocked and things like that, because amber has that. Also, there's a mineral, well, I don't want to call it a mineral, but a phenomenon known as fulgurite. And fulgurite is the substance that's made when lightning strikes sand. Because as many of you know, in order to create glass, sand is heated up at high temperatures. And when that sand melts, this is how glass is formed, or glass is created. Well, the same thing happens when that sand is struck by lightning. It forms these pieces, and these pieces are oftentimes used in ritual work, the actual pieces of fulgurite, because it's said to have harnessed thunder energy or lightning energy inside of it, very similar to what amber is able to do with the thunder and lightning energy. There are certain even woods that are supposed to be sacred or considered to be sacred to thunderous energy, and mainly because they have been able to, in times, people believe that they have been able to kind of ward off thunder. One of those things is, or one of those woods, I should say, is actually oak. Oak is said to, people would take sprinkles of oak and put it into the four corners of their home. They would also do this with cedar. And this was used in older times to keep lightning from hitting the home. Okay, but when we're getting into actual lightning and thunder rites, I think it's interesting because this is when we start to get into a little bit of our hoodoo, right? And hoodoo was something that was always used when we were dealing with lightning. There's even a saying that many people say, I don't know if you've ever seen like a sunstorm. And the sunstorm is when you have, just full sunshine, but you also have rain and you have thunder. And a lot of the people in the olden times said that when this was occurring, the devil was beating his wife, or the devil and his wife were arguing. Okay, whenever you had that type of sunstorm. So there was always some type of divine phenomenon associated with it. I know many people listening, especially those over 30, remember that when it was a thunderstorm, we were always told not to turn on the TV and certainly not to speak on the phone. Okay, if anybody remembers that era. But again, it takes us back to our understanding of this lightning and every system you have in that spiritual system. There's always some form of archetypes which is associated with thunder. Okay, even on too, they have thunder deities, Swaswana, you have Dimo. Dimo it's an energy that manifests thunder. Okay, but it manifests thunder and lightning. Okay, very, very similar to Shango. And Modimo was used to actually conjure lightning and thunder. Okay, so in Africa, it was not always just an issue of, well, the thunder is here, we're going to give praise to the thunder, but we're going to bring the thunder. We're going to make the thunder and the lightning happen. Okay, like I said, in the Bantu, you had umpundulo. Okay, and that's a bird. I may have pronounced that wrong because my Bantu is a little shaky sometimes. But umpundulo was a bird, and it was considered like a lightning bird. And again, if you consider the bird, when you look at Kemet, there was always a vulture or a bird that was worn on the crown. And this was an honoring and a signification of the Yamas, understanding that the witches were very much a part. Again, when we speak about the mojo bags, a lot of times they use catch thunder energy, so they would be taken outside and held up, or you could even make oil using like a piece of wood that was struck by lightning. And you use any type of oil that you can get your hands on. It could even be almond oil, but you use it as a base oil. And you can find a piece of amber or lodestone or fulgurite, which I mentioned before is that sand that's been struck by lightning that turns into a small piece of glass. And what many people used to do, they would take those three ingredients and then hold them up on their crown chakra during a thunderstorm. And what would happen is that bag would now take on the energy of that thunderstorm as sent back up through the feet and the soles of the person through their crown chakra. So it would almost be like the bags would be a part of a perfect circuit that's created between the person and the heavens. And that bag would now hold the power and the energy of the thunderstorm. Okay, so that's something very easily that you can do just using the ingredients that I just gave to you. You can make yourself your own lightning bag. And that's not only used to protect you from lightning, but more importantly, that's more so used to conjure lightning. Okay, to conjure lightning. Because sometimes you need to tear down something that has been built, whether it's been built against you or whether it's been built against someone who you care about. You would use the lightning for that. One very simple ritual that you can always do is, again, using that zigzag zig shape. I was speaking on Yusuf L's show this morning, and one of the terms that I had used was zigzag zig, which is a term that we hear a lot of time in 120 or the Nation of Gods and Earths. And zigzag zig means knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Well, if we have an understanding of knowledge, wisdom, understanding as it pertains to